At night, the forest was lusher than ever. Smelling the dampness and the dew, the cool air bathed Rusty's senses, enriching him with the glow of the moons, the vivid green of the underbrush, and a sense of freedom that beckoned and called for just about as long as he could remember. His breaths came excited and patchy, and he crept through the flora, eager to explore. His fur prickled. There had always been something magical about the forest. It held secrets, that much he knew, and he craved nothing more than to find them. As a hairless paw landed in front of him, however, he found a little more than he bargained for. He shrank away from the hideous creature before him, first thinking a monster. The forest had to have those too, right? Upon closer inspection, though, he realized this was no monster, just a cat with eyes like the moon and skin as raw and exposed as a human's. "You hear it, don't you?" they asked. He drew himself up, leaning away from this creature. "Hear what?" The cat rose on his back feet, moving like a wild cat, for sure, as they patted a circle around Rusty. His eyes followed the twitch of their rat-like tail, but as he realized this cat was not looking at him, followed their gaze. Up and up, he stared slack-jawed at the brilliant silverwood tree, shining in the light unlike any tree he had ever seen before. The stranger put a paw on its root. "Do you see that it's budding?" Indeed it was. Tiny buds covered its branches, just on the verge of bursting forth into leaves. "There's a lot that's changed in the world since my time," they said. "Things that have come and gone, but the consequences of ancient criminals will follow the tracks of their modern successors wherever they go. An era is ending now. The world has finished breathing out, and she's ready to draw another breath. Are you ready?" I don't know." Their moon eyes turned back to him. "You will be asked to decide soon. Don't fret if you must say no. One way or another, this breath is finished, and another will begin anew. With or without you." Rusty awoke with a start. "Ah, there you are." He blinked in confusion up at his older sister, Princess. "You were sleeping like the dead. I couldn't even wake you up." "Oh, sorry." He pushed himself up and gave himself a thorough shake, hoping to chase away the remnants of the dream and put himself back where he belonged, on the cool tiles of his human's kitchen. "Don't say sorry. You haven't missed anything." Princess's whiskers twitched mischievously. "He's still asleep. Perfect time to practice stalking." Put off by the dream, he hesitantly said, "But stalking is for wildcats, isn't it? We have the humans to feed us." She cocked her head. He had never backed out of a lesson before. Well, I don't know. Henry was talking to me." "I get that you like your friends, Rusty. I really do. But you're going to listen to Henry. He barely knows his tail from a snake. Can't trust him a second." "He was just saying the wildcats are kind of stupid for living out in the forest when they could easily live with the humans," he continued. "And aren't they?" "Trust no one, Rusty, especially humans. Doesn't matter how well they treat us. You should fear anyone who has more power than you." "But they love us." "And what happens when they don't?" He said nothing. "I doubt that'll happen with your human, though, so don't worry about it. Come on, if anything, stalking is fun, isn't it?" "Mm-hmm. Then let's go practice your stalking." Rusty wasn't the least bit surprised when Princess led him to the yard of a chubby black and white kitten called Smudge. They crawled into the bushes without a sound. Smudge was belly up on the patio, snoring so loud the birds would land on the grass. So Rusty flattened himself to the grass and crept towards him. Princess's tail whisked past his ear. "Slower," she whispered. "Patience is key." "Right," he breathed, slowing his paw steps as he drew ever closer to Smudge. Then, finally, after what felt like seasons of waiting, he was close enough to make the leap. He darted forward, laughing triumphantly as Smudge jolted awake, giving him a few panic swats. Rusty danced out of reach, then lunged again, barreling him on his side when he tried to run. "Rusty!" he wailed, cross-scraping on the pavement as he tried to scramble away. "Let me go! Come on!" He let him up, tail curling as he bounced back to his feet. "You're no good at this, Smudge." Smudge gave his chest a few quick licks. "Yeah, well, I don't have my sister following me around, training me to be a savage." "A savage? Is that what I am now?" Smudge squeaked and leapt to his feet, all his fur bushing out. Princess watched from the bushes, her blue eyes more amused than affronted. I'm as civil a house cat as you, Smudge, I assure you." Smudge's tail lashed once. "Then where's your house?" he said warily. "I live with Rusty." When Smudge continued to watch her, she sniffed. "What feral has a collar, Smudge?" "I just don't know that any house cats that hunt," he said. Princess pulled herself from beneath the bush, eyes nearly shut in the light, but her silver fur gleaming luxuriously as she stretched. Sure enough, her purple collar, though a little ragged and aged, hung somewhat loose around her neck. "It's in the family," she said lightly. "My mother taught me, and now I'm teaching him." "And there's nothing wrong with hunting," Rusty said. "It's fun." "It's a feral thing is all," Smudge muttered. Yeah, but... Well, you kittens have fun. Princess spoke over him. She was staring at the sun, but now strode to the opposite fence. I promised to meet Oliver at sun's brightest. Enjoy the warmth, house cat, she added, flicking Smudge's ear as she passed. Smudge laid back his ears irritably. He bared his teeth when Rusty took a playful swing at him, hoping to get him to join the game. I can tell your siblings, he grumbled, giving him a hearty shove away. I hope so, since, we are. Oh, come on. He nudged Smudge when he didn't take it in light. I'm sorry I scared you. I won't do it again. Yeah, don't let Princess hear you say that. She's not that bad. To you, he huffed, swiping a paw over his whiskers. Never mind. You want to do something? How about we go into the woods? His whiskers twitched when Smudge shot him a look. Guess not. Let's go lie on the table. You don't want to go in the woods anyways, Smudge said as they trotted over and leapt onto a table beside the fence. That's where the real ferals are. I was talking to Henry the other day. Knowing that Princess would roll her eyes, he couldn't help but do the same. Here we go again. You listen to him too, he protested. He told me that he nearly got killed by the biggest, meanest cat he'd ever seen from there, he finished. A big Tom with spines sticking out of his fur like thistles, and his markings were completely unnatural, like a monster out of a nightmare. Henry barely knows his tail from a snake, he retorted. Smudge scoffed. Says the one who used to hound him all the time for stories about the forest. Princess told me none of it is true. Princess told you to jump into the road. Would you? If she had good reason to, then sure, he shot back. I'd ask her why first, though. Well, I do know they eat bones, Smudge said. They crunch them up like they're nothing. I doubt they eat bones. Have you seen the fur scraps on the border? Oh, they shed. How terrifying. You're too fearless for your own good, Smudge said. If you think it's so safe, then why don't you go in? His eyes flew open, though, when Rusty shot him a look, eyes gleaming. Rusty, no, it was a joke! Rusty leapt onto the fence, tail high and confident. He didn't reply immediately, gazing deep into the forest. How many times had he gazed longingly into it? He had no reason to go in, though. As much as he wanted to explore, the forest just wasn't where he belonged, no matter how tantalizing the smells. But that dream, it felt so good, so real. He wanted those sounds and smells so badly that it hurt. Smudge leapt up beside him, jerking him away from his daydreaming. Don't do this. Princess will claw my ears off if you get hurt. He laughed. Then I won't get hurt. He landed on the grass on the other side. He'd been here before, too, but each step forward brought him closer and closer to territory he had never set a paw in before. The fur around his ruff rose with anticipation, and excitement swelled in his chest. He parted his jaws, letting the foreign and wonderful smells of the forest wash over him. Rusty! Smudge whispered, yelled, Get back here! With one last glance over his shoulder, he slid into the bushes.